It was administered to me approximately 45 minutes after I had taken the capsules. I started to visualize my whole life, basically from the time I was born to the present, and it was kind of sporadic flashes of scenes of past and present things. And it happened so fast that I didn't in the first understand that.
I had dreams about the friendship and the breakup of this friendship for years and years after we stopped being friends, and it was something that constantly bothered me on a deep emotional level. And the Endabuse sort of told me the whole story of our friendship, why we became friends, why we stopped being friends, what attracted me to him, and it brought me a lot of peace of mind in that and it has to do with heroin too, I think, in that it was sort of a negative, evil energy that I was attracted to, and I saw it for what it was, and by the Endabuse making you see this, like before that I wouldn't be able to see that this person was negative, or that heroin was negative, or that things that I've done in my past were negative. But the Endabuse basically puts a mirror to your face and makes you see it. And it freed me from, I guess, guilt. And it was just, you just see that you did that, and that you finally understand it, and you move beyond it.
I'm like the tough nut. You know, with me, the first time I took Endabuse, I was leery. I remember saying, I don't feel anything. And but meanwhile, when I tried to get up to go to the bathroom, I couldn't stand. So, as far as visualizations are concerned, I felt I saw some things. I believe I saw trees in the wind, and grass blowing in the wind, and ocean waves. But I did not have as many visuals as most of the others had.
For example, my whole life, from the point where I'm at now, all the way back to being born, and all the way back into my parents' life, not chronologically, but flashes, different flashes, like a puzzle, different pieces of my life that later on, after a treatment, when I looked at it, it all became like, different pieces of a puzzle falling into one picture, and which you really get an understanding about your life and where you went wrong. And the thing is that I really expected to see that car accident, but I didn't. And I really found out that when you're a junkie, you really try to get reasons for why you're grabbing to dope. And I always said, oh, I'm a junkie because I had that car accident, which was a really beautiful reason to have an excuse to use. And I thought when I was going to take the Endabuse that I was going to see the car accident. And I found out that the repressed memories that came out during the treatment were more the happy memories of my life than the negative ones. And that it wasn't all that bad as I made it up in my mind, as I went along during this addiction. And so I saw my parents having this really devotional love for me, that I would see myself being 3-4 years old and them picking me up and hugging me and giving me all this love and attention. And I never remembered it that way, and it was really, good to see it that way, because it really balanced out the idea I had about the relationship I had with my parents, which was always really negative, and all of a sudden I saw it in a more positive light.
I started to see, this is really interesting, I started to see my life come before me in it was like in slides of films. I'd see these slides roll by, and within each slide was like a film of my life. I'd see different points. And at that time I started remembering things. I had a memory when I was 1 year old in first grade. I was with this kid, in my first grade class. I had a memory I started triggering all these memories. I remember my first girlfriend on a platform in a train station in New York when I was 15. I remember things when I was 13 in my neighborhood with kids. And in between that, I'd start seeing things on film. and I'd see all these things that, like, my problems, all the things that depressed me in my life roll by. And it was really intense. It was like all these things would roll by, and I'd be like, you know, I'd start examining them, like breaking them down. Like, I did this, I did that, I did this. This is what led to my depression here. And what I liked about it was there was no feeling in it. Like, I could look at everything that really bothered me that I couldn't face. I could face it, and there was no emotion in it.
I didn't feel anything.
Yeah, I could look at it and analyze what was wrong with me, you know, and analyze my feelings without having to shudder and look, you know, I could look at it. And then the most interesting thing was, after a certain point, I was looking up at the ceiling, and there was a light up in the ceiling. And I saw this woman, like a little thing shoot out, and it became a woman. And she stood right by my bed. She was a 6-foot glass clear woman, and she was as clear as like you are. Like, I mean, I saw her and she was glass. I'm like, and she waved at me, and she went under the bed. And I was like, wow.
When I came out of it, you know, 24 hours after the Endabuse, I was hungry, and I was realizing that 24 hours since I did heroin, or 36 hours since I've done heroin, this is when I should be feeling at my worst. This is usually is the high point of your cold turkey for at least 2 or 3 more days, and you're completely clean. You feel rejuvenated, and you don't have any cravings. That's a really important thing about the Endabuse, is that it totally eliminates all cravings for whatever you were addicted to before. For example, every time I'd kick cold turkey heroin, I'd have these tremendous cravings for heroin. Like, I'd just be, even after I went through the cold turkey, I'd just want to, you know, just do a bag just to get over, you know, the lingering pains that you have after, you know. It takes about a month, cold turkey, really to kick. But with Endabuse, the last thing in the world you feel like doing, or the last thing I felt like doing, was heroin. And I had never experienced that. I felt like I had never actually done heroin. And you know, that was something amazing to me. I just came out of the bedroom, sat on a couch, and was hungry.
Well, after I was treated, I finally decided to go to art college. So I applied for FIT, and I went to school, and I'm presently, as of now, I finished my first semester, and I think I've done pretty well. I probably got a 3.3 average to a 3.7, somewhere in there. I think Ibogaine definitely did. Ibogaine helped me to get there much faster. It gave me the strength. You know, I could see my objectives, and I could do them, and I could achieve them. I would have eventually gone to school. I think I would. I don't know if I would have been there this quick. What was good was it cleared a lot of the garbage on my way, and I was able to project and move forward and do the things I wanted to do, because art is definitely what I want to get into. And it's helped me. As of now, I'm in school. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm very happy. Life is not perfect, but it's definitely going where I want to go. And I think Ibogaine is definitely played a major role in that.
After my Endabuse treatments, the craving for heroin was completely gone. Completely. I could just sit in a room, people shooting up around me, sniffing, smoking heroin or cocaine, whatever. And it didn't bother me at all, at all. I mean, it didn't disgust me, and it didn't attract me. It just left me cold. You know, and the other thing was too that I would look at people using around me, and I would laugh, like, how can you make this so important, you know? People would fight over, like, a tiny little bit of powder, and I'd be like, what is so important about this all of a sudden? And I could not, you know, understand how it could have been so important in my own life. And it's really weird, because it goes from one day to the next. Like, I remember the first day after my first treatment, I gave my heroin away from the day before. I literally gave it away.
No cravings for the first 90 to 100 days. After that, it wasn't so much a craving like I wanted to get high. It was like I wanted to see what I was. It's kind of like a little kid. You take his toy away, and he wants to see what it's like to play with it again. I tried it one more time, and it just wasn't the same thing. I actually was guilt-ridden that I did it, and it didn't have the same effect on me as it did before, and it wasn't something that I was chasing after like I was before I did the Endabuse system.
And I didn't even want to smoke tobacco. I couldn't smoke tobacco. I tried to light up a cigarette, and I started coughing, and I wasn't even looking to quit smoking cigarettes. That was the last thing on my mind, you know? And I lit up a cigarette, and I started choking on it like it was the first time I'd ever smoked a cigarette. And that's amazing, you know? So you really feel like you've had a complete cleansing, you know, in your system. You know, you don't feel like doing heroin. I have another story. This lasts, by the way, for a few weeks, sometimes for months, that you don't have any cravings at all. For example, after one Endabuse treatment, I was going to, this was in Holland, I went to my old dealer's house where I used to go every single day to use heroin. And I went to just to see these people, to show them that I was clean and to see how they were doing. And these were people that I smoked heroin with every day, people who have been addicted for 25 years to heroin, who have never heard of Endabuse. And these people couldn't believe it. They had never seen somebody stop using the amount of heroin that I've used on a daily basis like that, overnight, literally. And it was a shock. People were completely in shock. And some people even put heroin in my face, didn't believe me, were so cynical because they hadn't experienced something like that. They put heroin right in my face and asked me to use some for free. And I had no desire whatsoever to use it, and I turned it down. And that was the first time I'd ever turned down heroin in my life was after Endabuse treatments.
I went from being a meat eater to a vegetarian. I started taking care of my blood pressure and my health. It's just a sense of well-being and wanting to get better, of wanting to get your life back on track. Just very positive. It was amazing. When I came back, I felt so high. And I don't mean high like on drugs high, just like a natural high. I felt everything was great, everything was going to get better, and everything did get better. I mean, I started working again, I got my own apartment. I've come a long way since the 5 years of using. In the last year, it's amazing the strides I've made. And then, of course, now we have also, what developed from that was an aftercare group that we're doing. So we meet once a week for group, couple of people that have done Ibogaine, which is really nice to have something, you know, once a week, a way of just airing what's going on in your life and talking about your feelings and things like that. And that's working out really well.
And I think we have to take a new look at the way we treat things. I mean, we have to realize in this country that most people think that once you abuse drugs that you can't come back, that we're not damaged, we're not evil individuals, we're just people with problems. We're people that can function, that can come back, and we're not, you know, I mean, as far as racism and as far as people going, you know, drug abusers are the lowest on the pole. And I think Ibogaine is the difference. It's a more humane, the Endabuse procedure is a humane, one of the most humane ways of treatment of drug abuse. It gives you respect. It's treatment with respect. It's not making you feel like a dirty piece of crap like a lot of drug programs are. It's respect. It's with dignity. And I think that's what's the problem with drug abuse, drug treatment in America. We have to bring more dignity, more respect. And Ibogaine is the way I think we can do that.
There's a lot of people that when they hear about the Endabuse treatment, they're afraid because they hear it's some kind of trip and they don't want to have any mind-expanding experience because when you're a junkie, you basically want to nod and you don't want to think. And a lot of people I talk to, they tell me like, yeah, but I don't want to see my life come by because, you know, I don't want to think about my life. I especially don't want to see it all again, you know. I would like to say to these people, like, you're not going to see things you're going to expect to see. The things you're going to see are the repressed memories, which are usually the positive things. And, you know, it's worth it. It's worth to do it because within 24 hours, you're out of this total horror that you're in, this slavery of every day having to hustle that money and you know, having to make sure you're not getting sick. 24 hours of something that can really enlighten you and make sense of like why you got hooked, and you know, give you some real like incentive to stop. I mean, why not? You know, don't be afraid of it, because you're not going to see anything else but yourself. So why be afraid of yourself? You know, that's what I would say.
I started using heroin like 18 years ago, and you know, like I said, at first it was just, you know, every now and then it, you know, got more and more, and then, you know, you get a habit, and I went into like detox centers, and every time I was in a detox center, you know, for like Buprenex, I would get out and just go and use right away again. You know, like, it was like the only thing you could think about when you're in the detox center was getting out and going and using, because, I mean, it would help with your physical addiction. You wouldn't get sick, but it would do anything for your mind. I started getting really sick. My body was like just shutting down, you know, like I couldn't fight off colds, and like if I got like a cut or an infection, it would get really bad because my immune system was so low from the methadone and the dope and the cocaine and everything. Here, this is it's an abscess. You get that from shooting, you know, speedball, say the cocaine. If you miss the vein, it goes into your skin, underneath the skin and your tissue, and it gets infected. A lot of times, I would do that and it would just go away on its own. But towards the end, I got these because my body was so run down that I couldn't fight off any infection. And I have one here also. I was in the hospital 3 times in 2 weeks before I came down here, and they pumped me full of antibiotics, and the doctor told me you're gonna die within like a month if you don't get help. I got caught like 3 times before I came down here. Within 2 weeks, I was in jail and a hospital. And I was supposed to go to like a traditional rehab center, and I knew that as soon as I get out of that, I would be getting high again. So I went on the internet and I looked up like other resources for treatment, and I found the IbeginAgain website, and I called Eric, and 24 hours later I was in Gainesville doing an Ibogaine treatment. Three days later, I had no physical sickness, and like everything seemed so different in life. You know, like I could taste things again, I could smell, I could see things. Like it was really emotional. You know, like the first time I walked outside my hotel room, I was in tears because it's just like everything was so beautiful. It was like being born again almost. You know, like it was like you're living again. It was tough in the beginning because after the Ibogaine, I didn't even know where I stood. You know, I was like, all right, I'm better, I'm clean. You know, I don't have any urges. This is great, but like, what am I doing in Gainesville, Florida? You know, what am I gonna do here now? After the Ibogaine, I did a lot of just nothing, a lot of nothingness, you know, just sitting around reading, just taking walks, and, you know, because for like the first month, I didn't even bother looking for a job or, you know, getting back out there. I just walked around like in a state of bliss. I didn't have a thought in my head about going to get high or, you know, or like missing that whole challenge of going and copping and getting the drug, and, you know, that was all gone. A month after I did the Ibogaine, I got my blood test and my hepatitis was inactive. So, you know, and then I got it checked again like 6 months later, and it was still inactive. And then I started getting into like reading about spirituality and meditating. I would sit for hours and just sit quiet, you know, for hours. And it would feel like minutes, but it was, you know, a good part of my day. Yeah, nature was a really big thing, like the trees and just the air, and you know, it's like you're seeing through different eyes again after it. Like everything is like completely different. It's like everything's new again. After I did the IbeginAgain, I just wanted to like tell everybody about this you know, this plant that, you know, it saves lives, you know, to me. It saved my life, I believe.